CMPD had extra officers on watch around the stadium tonight following last night's protest and the West Kerrick mistrial. And new at 10, police have released the pictures of two protesters arrested and charged with assaulting officers. Harry Sawyer and Stavonta Mackey both face several charges tonight, including assault. We're told the officers they're accused of attacking were not seriously injured. CMPD says protests on Friday started peacefully but turned more aggressive as the night wore on. Some protesters wearing bandanas over their faces went face to face with officers in riot gear. Others even began throwing rocks at those officers. WCCB Charlotte's Marvin Beach has been monitoring protests happening in the area around tonight's game. He joins us live from Uptown with the latest. Marvin?
Ashley, protests have just wrapped up here in Marshall Park. We've actually been following those protesters all throughout Uptown, from Bank of America Stadium through the epicenter and back to Marshall Park. They've just been making a loop around and around, and just in the past few minutes, they wrapped up those protests. If you take a look over to the side, you can see some final folks just walking away right now. Earlier, we saw a small group of protesters gathered near Church and Stonewall as fans went into the game, but for the most part, it's been quiet and peaceful here.
Panthers fans greeted by protesters as they made their way to tonight's game at Bank of America Stadium.
Even though it's civil disobedience, they're abiding by the law. So we expect those to continue.
CMPD Chief Kerr Putney says officers are keeping a close eye around the continuing demonstrations.
On foot, on bicycles, motorcycles, and cars.
We saw lots of extra security around tonight's game. It's the second day of Uptown marches after Friday's mistrial in the voluntary manslaughter case of CMPD officer Wes Kerrick. And tonight we're hearing strong opinions from one of the 12 jurors who heard the case.
There's a reason to be shot 10 times, even if I was walking towards you or running.
Moses Wilson is one of 4 jurors who wanted to find Kerrick guilty. The other 8 stuck with their belief that he was innocent. Wilson says deliberations were heated and contentious at times and believes many of the arguments about Farrell's size and behavior were biased.
I thought all those aspects were racist, and that Jonathan Farrell was on trial by the defense.
Wilson says 5 weeks on the jury took an emotional toll on him and others. In the end, he says there was no way opinions were going to change.
You do your duty up until the last second, until it becomes apparent that no matter what you do, those that believe certain things will believe it, and those that believe other things will believe it, and now you're locked.
And again, that march through Uptown just wrapped up in the past few minutes here in Marshall Park. Another rally is set for tomorrow afternoon at Redemption Christian Ministries in North Charlotte. For now, we're live at Uptown. Marvin Beach, WCCB News.
Thanks, Marvin. The state must now decide if they will retry the case or not. We could find out about that as soon as Monday. But as WCCB Charlotte legal contributor John Snyder tells us, it could be quite a while before the families of Wes Kerrick and Jonathan Farrell get closure.
To do a second trial all over again, you're looking at least a year before this case comes back up for trial. You know, again, you have to allocate the court personnel, you have to allocate the resources of the state. And so basically, this case will now go back to the end of the line, if you will, for cases to be tried in Mecklenburg County.